Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of fascinating sources and basically distill them into the essential stuff just for you. Today, we're plunging into something really intriguing. It explores, the power of music, memory, and that whole intricate, sometimes messy dance with time itself. We're talking about the 2024 American romantic fantasy film, The Greatest Hits. Our mission for this deep dive to unpack its pretty unique premise, get into the creative heartbeat behind how it was made, and yeah, figure out how it actually landed with audiences and critics.
Yeah, and what's really captivating, I think, is how it takes this idea everyone gets, that feeling music gives you, that nostalgia, and twists it into this like fantastical ability. But it's deeply personal too. It's not just some fun time travel story. It really makes the main character and us too, I think, face these huge questions about love, loss, and well, how you actually move on. We're going to use a pretty comprehensive Wikipedia overview as our main guide today, just to pull out those key insights.
Okay, let's get into it then. So imagine this. Every single song you ever loved, maybe one tied to a big moment, could literally send you spinning back to when you first heard it. That's basically the world of the greatest hits. So the story is centered on Harriet. She's played by Lucy Boynton, and she is just grappling with this intense grief. Her boyfriend, Max, that's David Corenswet, died in a car crash 2 years ago. But her grief isn't just, emotional pain. It comes with this really strange, almost debilitating side effect. Certain songs, ones linked to Max, they become like these triggers, these temporal gateways. They send her hurtling back in time to the exact moment they first heard that song.
hmm And what's really insightful there, I think, is how the film links that psychological weight of grief directly to like a physical thing, the time travel. These trips back, they aren't just wistful memories. In the present, they actually show up as seizures. So she has to wear noise-canceling headphones all the time just to try and avoid accidentally triggering one of these painful trips back. It
Yeah.
really shows how trauma can kind of physically lock you in place, right?
Yeah.
Makes moving on a literal physical struggle.
Exactly. And, well, as you'd probably guess, she tries to use this ability to save Max multiple times. During one trip back, she asks him this really deep, almost philosophical question. Would he save her life if the cost was that they would never even meet? I mean, that's not just tough ethically. It kind of challenges the whole foundation of their relationship, doesn't it? How well do you think the film handled the weight of that kind of choice?
Oh, it's absolutely central.
Yeah.
The genius of it isn't really about giving a neat answer, but about making Harriet, and by extension, us really wrestle with what love and sacrifice mean. She's not just trying to fix a past event. She's questioning the whole value of their connection, even knowing it ended tragically versus, never having had it at all.
Yeah.
That question she asks Max, it's as much for her as it is for him, I think. It's her own struggle made verbal.
Right. And then things get, well, even more interesting and complicated. She's in a grief support group, and there she meets David Park, that's Justin H. He's also mourning his parents recently died. So as Harriet and David start getting closer, this whole new dilemma crops up. It's tangled up with her weird ability and, well, her growing feelings for David.
And that's where the film really sets up its core conflict so beautifully, I think. That pull between, replaying the past versus actually daring to embrace a new future.
Yeah.
David isn't just a new love interest. He represents a chance for a present-day life, a connection that isn't haunted by Max. But initially, of course, David thinks she's just, like, hallucinating when she tells him about the time travel, which is important.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That skepticism helps ground the whole fantasy element, makes the eventual proof feel more real to us, too.
It definitely does. You doubt it too, right? But yeah, the truth comes out. Harriet realizes she was actually in David's parents' antique shop before with Max. So she uses a song, travels back, leaves a little message there, proof for David. And then he, understandably, asks, hey, can you save my parents? But Harriet tells him no, she can only change her own past actions, not anyone else's.
And that rule is critical, isn't it? It's not just a convenient plot point. It forces Harriet to face the limits of what she can actually control, her own agency. She can tweak her own timeline by changing her past decisions, but she can't just, rewind and undo someone else's tragedy. It hammers home that she can revisit moments, sure, but she's not playing God, which makes her final choice much more personal, more about her own acceptance.
Yeah, that core emotional journey really peaks when Harriet realizes she's fallen for David. But the paradox is their whole connection, their potential future, it only exists because Max died. It's this impossible choice, a real heartbreaker. And after talking it over with David, who admits, yeah, he would save his parents if he could, Harriet makes this huge, life-altering decision.
Her choice really is the film's message in a nutshell. She decides to go back one last time, confronts Max again, asks him that question about erasing their meeting to save her life. And when he says yes, she comes back to the present, has this poignant moment with David, and then she makes the final trip back to that concert where she first met Max. And this time when he invites her to follow him, she says no, she declines. And just like that, she spares him his death, but completely rewrites her own timeline. It's a massive sacrifice, really, for his sake and maybe for her own chance at a different kind of future.
So in this new present, Harriet seems genuinely happy. The headphones are gone, that physical sign of her grief gone. Max walks right past her in a coffee shop. He's with someone else, arm in arm. They don't recognize each other at all. And then at a concert later, Harriet and David lock eyes across the room. It just hints, at a future for them, one they built themselves on new ground.
Yeah, the ending is quite bittersweet, isn't it? And really makes you think. It's not the magic wand fix where everything's perfect and everyone remembers.
Yeah.
It's more about making peace with the past by actively choosing a different way forward. The fact that Max and Harriet are strangers really drives home the cost of her choice. But it also validates her new happiness somehow. It feels earned, through real sacrifice.
So hearing about Harriet's journey, it makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? If you had that ability, what memory would you go back to? And maybe more importantly, what would you actually change? Knowing how drastically it could mess with your present really makes you think about how connected everything is. Our choices, our relationships.
It really does. The film doesn't just pose the question. It shows you, through Harriet's really difficult choices, just how tangled up our moments are and how much courage it takes to actually break free from the past sometimes. Which kind of brings us to...
Exactly. And to understand those choices maybe a bit better, let's pull back the curtain a little. Let's talk about how this really inventive film actually got made. The Greatest Hits was written, produced, and directed by Ned Benson. And this was his return to directing after quite a gap, right? A decade since the disappearance of Eleanor Rigby back in 2013.
Yeah, and a key thing here is Benson's really personal link to the theme. He's actually said he's, quote, obsessed with music and what it does to me and how it sort of forms nostalgia. So it wasn't just a cool idea he had, his own feeling, that experience of music transporting him, feeling those emotions tied to the past that was the seed for the whole time travel thing. It came from something real for him.
Oh, wow. And he looked at academic stuff, too. He read Oliver Sacks's book, Musicophilia, the one about music and the brain, and also The Rest is Noise by Alex Ross, the music critic. And apparently he revisited the script during the COVID pandemic, looked at it through what he called a musical lens.
That's fascinating. You can almost see how Sachs' work, exploring the neurological side of music, could have informed the rules of her power. Why a song could trigger such a physical, visceral thing. And Alex Ross's book, that probably helped deepen the understanding of how specific songs become these cultural or personal time capsules. Revisiting it during the pandemic, too, that isolation, the focus on memory and connection, it must have really amplified those themes.
Makes sense. Zooming out a bit, Benson also called the film a love letter to Los Angeles, which is where it was basically all set and filmed. He mentioned being inspired by directors like Cameron Crowe, obviously known for music in his films, John Hughes, Richard Linklater, and specific movies like Reality Bites and like Crazy.
Yeah, listing those names tells you a lot about the vibe he was going for, doesn't it? It signals this kind of romantic feeling, mixing real emotion with a bit of indie charm, and really rooting it in a place. LA isn't just a backdrop, it's almost part of her journey. You could definitely feel echoes of Crowe's soundtracks, Hughes' emotional honesty, Linklater's talky intimacy in there.
Filming was late August to October 2022, all in LA. And they shot in something like 36 different spots. Iconic places, too, like downtown, Echo Park, Silver Lake, Chinatown, Boyle Heights, Venice Beach.
Using all those distinct LA spots really grounds it, I think.
Yeah.
Makes the fantasy feel more connected to a real, vibrant place. The city becomes part of her memory landscape.
Now, casting. Lucy Boynton got the role of Harriet after she decided not to do that Marianne Faithfull biopic. Benson called her an extraordinary actor, perfect for it. Justin H. came on board in August 22 as David. Then David Corenswet and Austin Crute joined in October.
Austin was a great choice for Harriet. She has that ability to show vulnerability, but also strength,
Yeah.
Essential for a character dealing with that kind of power and grief. And Menz brings this quiet warmth that really makes David feel like a solid anchor for her in the present.
Interesting detail. Benson apparently rewrote the script quite a bit, even dialogue during production, really collaborated with the actors. Oh, and the score was by Ryan Lott, editing by Sarah Hayter.
That collaboration, rewriting with the actors, that suggests they were really trying to make the characters feel authentic, lived in, not just reading lines, but finding the character together. That often makes for stronger performances, especially in an emotional story like this.
Okay, so how did all this land? What was the reception like? The Greatest Hits premiered at South by Southwest March 14th, 2024, had a limited cinema run April 5th, then hit Hulu worldwide on April 12th.
And that release strategy, especially jumping to streaming so quickly, it worked big time for viewership. According to Just Watch, it was the #1 streamed film in the U.S. across all platforms for a week in mid-April 2024, and #4 for the whole month. So clearly, people were watching it, a lot of people.
The critics, more mixed or average is the polite way to put it. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 49% positive from 85 reviews, average score 5.8 out of 10. The general vibe was cool idea, but maybe didn't quite stick the landing. Shallow treatment, some said. Metacritic, a score of 50 out of 100 from 15 critics. So yeah, right down the middle. Divided.
Which raises that classic question, right? Why? The big gap between audience love and critical shrugs. It happens a lot with these high-concept romance or fantasy films. Critics might be looking for more innovation, deeper execution, beyond the cool premise, maybe find it hitting familiar beats, whereas audiences often connect really strongly with the core emotion, the second chance idea, the power of music, and they're maybe more willing to go along for the ride.
That's a really good point, because some critics did love it. Valerie Complex at Deadline Hollywood called it moving and reflective. Coleman Spilled at the Daily Beast even said it was the most original time travel movie in years because of that emotional connection. Kate Erbland at IndieWire called it a wistful charmer, so it definitely resonated strongly with some.
Absolutely. And that shows that for those critics, the film's heart, its message about grief and connection through music, that really landed. They focused on the thematic weight and the performances.
But yeah, on the flip side, plenty felt it missed the mark. Peter DeBruge at Variety called it a clunky remix of better rom-coms. Ouch. Alyssa Wilkinson at the New York Times felt it didn't have the same spark as Benson's earlier work, maybe needed more lightness or humor. Karen James at The Hollywood Reporter thought it was trying too hard to push emotional buttons.
And Ross Boname at Collider had that killer line, right? The film equivalent of an album with a cool cover that masks the inadequate record within. Others agreed. Benjamin Lee at The Guardian called it insufferably cutesy.
Yeah.
Ty Burr at The Washington Post pointed to generic characters and clunky dialogue. So those criticisms suggest that, yeah, great idea, but maybe the execution didn't fully deliver on its potential for everyone. Fell back on familiar tropes instead of really digging deep. It's always a balancing act with high-concept stuff.
So what really stands out to you about these totally different reactions? I mean, does a really popular film with a cool hook kind of win out over mixed reviews in your book? Or how do you weigh that? It definitely makes you think about how we all value different things in movies, especially genre movies.
It absolutely does. That gap is a great reminder that critics and general audiences sometimes just operate on different wavelengths. And that's okay. For lots of viewers, the emotional hit, the imaginative premise of The Greatest Hits, that was enough. More than enough. Made it a memorable watch. Critics, maybe looking at it more analytically, comparatively, wanted something more. A fresher take on the execution. Both views are valid. Tell us something about how stories work today.
So we've taken our deep dive into The Greatest Hits. We've looked at Harriet's unique music time travel thing, the personal story behind the film, and how it ended up being this big hit with viewers but kind of split the critics.
Yeah, at its core, the film really digs into how powerful music is for our memories or feelings. And it pushes you to think about how far you'd go to change the past and what that might cost your present. Makes you consider your own choices, their ripples, on your life, on the people around you.
So as you think about all this, we'll leave you with one last thought to chew on. If one song could let you rewrite a moment from your past, fix something broken, how would you weigh the potential joy of what could be against the reality, the lessons, maybe even the person you became because of what you actually lived through? Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring.